if you're a leader in your organization, all eyes will be on you when it comes to wholeness, right? People watch very carefully, to what degree do you create a space that feels safe enough for people to show up whole, or to what degree, whether you want it or not, is there something that emanates from you that makes that it doesn't feel safe, right? You're almost sort of like this chemical catalyst, and that will determine what kind of atmosphere is in the room, because that is the power that sort of senior people hold over their organization. Over time, that might diminish as if you go towards self-management, but right now that is the reality if you're a leader in your organization, right? And so it's really important how you show up, right? And this is beyond what you say. This is really all of your presence, right? Do you create a presence where people go like, oh yeah, okay, here I feel like I can be myself, or no, this is a place where I have to be careful. And so, yeah, you role modeling wholeness is a big deal. And when I say role modeling wholeness, I think we talk about two things. It's lead and not react, right? And what I mean by that is first, well, lead, right? It's in the beginning, when this is not part of the culture, you have to lead with wholeness, right? Say that you say, hey, well, let's do a meeting with a check-in round where everybody just quickly says, like, how am I this morning? Is there anything that prevents me from being fully here? Anything I need to get off my chest? Well, the level of depth that you will bring to this will determine the level of depth that everybody else brings to it, right? I remember Tammy Simon from Sounds True saying that, she feels like she's ready to always be the one that goes deep to allow the other ones, to go deep, right? So if you say, yeah, I'm good this morning, well, we had a long traffic jam. Well, everybody else will pick up, okay, I'll say something superficial, right? If you say something profound, something that just comes from the heart, then others will feel the same permission. So there is something around always leading with example, right? Always showing up with a degree of vulnerability that might be unusual for now in the organization. So that's leading. The other part is not reacting, right? And when I talk about reacting, is what I mean by that is not go into a defensive, fearful, reflexive mode, right? Maybe you've read some things that that neuroscience has now established. I won't go too deeply into this, but fundamentally, what neuroscience says is that we have sort of two circuits that we can operate from, right? We can operate from a place of openness, of a place of sort of non-judgment, and then sort of our neocortex is involved, right? Or we can go into a more reflexive, fearful state when an older part of our brain, the amygdala, gets triggered, when there's something that makes us feel even just slightly unsafe, and we go into a reactive mode, right? I'm sure you can recognize, people in meetings being in these two states, right? An openness and a willingness to listen, to explore, to hold back with your judgments, and other moments where you're triggered and you're just you respond even without listening, and so what you want is, as much as possible, always come from this place of openness, because if you are the senior person in the organization, even if some other people get nervous, if you go into this place of openness, and it's okay, other people will go there too. If you go into a place of fearfulness, other people will join you in that state. So you have a lot of power about over the atmosphere that's being created, and it's a particular challenge for leaders to be in the state of openness, and that's because of at least two things, right? There's a weight of responsibility that is on your shoulders. right? That can easily make you fearful. Like, are we making the right decision in this meeting? And is this going, because you might feel more responsibility as a senior leader than other people, right? And then there's these perverse expectations that a lot of people have for their senior leaders, right? Is that senior leaders are supposed to always be in control, to never show weakness, to always know where it's going, to never be hesitating, right? To, poof, that's a really strong expectation that can quickly put you into this fearful mode. Like, everybody's watching me, like I have to pretend like and so, for a lot of leaders, it's actually a whole journey, and it's a beautiful journey to learn to not let yourself be affected by this weight of responsibility and expectations, and to just learn, as much as possible in every moment to be in a state of openness. And so, as always, I like to ask you questions, that help you maybe self-explore a little bit. What are things that push you towards being in this state of closeness, right? Of reflexiveness, of fearfulness. For some people, it's maybe when the results are bad, right? Like when, oh shit, the shit hits the fan now, right? And they go into that mode. For other people, it's simply when there is a difficult decision that needs to be made, and we might not have all of the elements, and I'm not sure that this is the right decision, but a decision needs to get made, and that might make me contract and make me fearful, right? And for other people, it's simply the risk of not being liked by other people, of doing something unpopular, of hurting somebody. That might put you in a reflexive mode. I know that for a long time was the case with me. If I knew that I would say something that might be hurting somebody else, if I had to have a difficult conversation, I would already protect myself, which of course wasn't helpful. Right. So yes, explore this for yourself. You can pause the video and just what are moments that where you contract yourself. Now, what can you do to learn to be more and more in a space of openness, irrespective of the circumstances? Well, there's probably three steps. One of them is simply to exercise your muscle to realize, oh shit, no, I just contracted. Let me open up again. Simply that realization. Some people find that doing mindfulness, meditating, learning to observe yourself is a very powerful practice, right? So that you're in the middle of a meeting, you're open, and suddenly you're contracting and being fearful, and then oh shit, you've learned to observe yourself. Oh, let me relax again. You might remember in the book I talk about this practice at Heiligenfeld, this chain of mental health hospitals in Germany, where they have this practice that in every meeting room you have these little tingsha bells, these little bells where you can like ding, and in every meeting there's a volunteer who takes them, and that person's role is as soon as they feel that something isn't working in the meeting. So in my words, that you're going into this closed, reflexive, fearful state, people go like ding, and everybody, oh, we hadn't even noticed. Oh yeah, thank you. And we go into that place. So that's a beautiful practice, so that not only you're not the only one that needs to be mindful of this. Everybody now is mindful of this. And then ding, So that's the first step. Simply be mindful and realize, oh, I'm actually in that state. Now, the second step is, okay, when I'm contracted, how do I get out of it again? For some people, it might be enough to simply take a deep breath, lower your shoulders, sit in a comfortable position. I know that for myself, the easiest way to do that is to share openly the private conversation that I was starting to have. So when you're in a closed reflexive state, you suddenly start to have private conversations that are different from the conversations that we're having out here. So we're having a conversation out here, but then there's something else that's going in here. And simply saying that by saying like, you know what, I noticed this is a tricky conversation because I I don't want you to get hurt. And this is difficult feedback that I want to give you. And simply by doing that, there's already, I've said it, there's no more private conversation I'm having. Right? Or I'm fearful because this is a fateful decision and I feel like we don't have all of the information and yet we have to make a decision. I've said it, now it's out in the open, right? And now we're actually talking about the real issue, right? So yes, this is my gesture by saying, hey, my private conversation, I put it in the middle of the room. And suddenly, I'm in an open state of mind again because it's all there, it's being said. And the third step is, if you notice that there are recurring patterns, that there are places where every time you get triggered, then it might be worthwhile going more deeply into it and doing some inner work, right? If you notice that there's something about hurting other people, or just the possibility of hurting them that, is getting you into this reflexive mode, well, maybe that's beautiful terrain to be explored, right? With whatever modality that you might do to do some inner work, right? It might be whatever form of therapy, or speech therapy, or body therapy, or whatever, because there might be deeper stories here behind that trigger you every time, and so that might be a beautiful way to deal with it. One thing I would invite you to, that I would almost urge you to do if you're a senior leader in the organization, is to have somebody observe you and give you feedback about how you show up and how you help or hinder that wholeness that you want to invite people into. And so invite a coach to just observe some of your meetings, or give that mandate to 2 or 3 people in the organization. Tell them like, hey, I want to learn, I want to be more mindful of how my presence is affecting other people. And could you give me feedback about that? I think that's a beautiful practice that might teach you a lot. And then obviously, for really important meetings, like if you do sort of a whole day workshop with everybody in the organization around some really important topic, it might be worthwhile having a facilitator lead that. If you don't feel strong enough yet, if you don't feel confident enough yet that you can really create that openness and that invitation, that's perfectly fine. That's what a lot of organizations do. But please just remember this: if you're a senior leader in your organization, the way you show up defines to a tremendous degree how other people can show up. And so please, by any means, do some of your inner work to help others show up more fully. And in that way, you will show up more fully and your life will be richer and more beautiful.